Hello everyone, I'm gonna go over some Unit 2 review terms, starting with Washington's presidents. Washington's presidents was to stay neutral, serve 2 terms, warn about factions and sectionalism. Washington's foreign policy, he wanted to stay neutral. Whiskey's rebellion. Alexander Hamilton convinced Congress to put tariffs on European imported goods. Excessive taxes was put on whiskey and enraged frontier farmers. Farmers refused to pay and threatened to secede, but George Washington led some troops into battle against the rebels. No one was injured and the rebels disbanded. First cabinet. Alexander Hamilton was Department of Treasury and Thomas Jefferson was the Department of State. Judiciary Act of 1789 created the judicial structure. Interpretations of the Constitution. Strict versus loose. Strict is to believe that the Constitution forbids what is not explicitly allowed. However, loose is when everything is allowed unless explicitly forbidden. XYZ affair was when 3 low-ranking French officers met U.S. officials and demanded $250,000 to see Talleyrand, demanded a loan to finance the French-British War, and demanded compensation for the wrong done to France by breaking the treaty. Quasar War, an undeclared war with France that lasted nearly 2 years and had the U.S. Navy sinking French ships. Alien Sedation Act. Alien Sedation Act was created from the anti-French feeling among many people at the time. The Naturalization Act would be the first and would make it so anyone had to, if you wanted to become a U.S. citizen, you would have to have lived in America for 14 years. The Alien Friends Act is when any foreigner who is deemed dangerous could be deported. The Alien Enemies Act was any foreigner who was from a country that was at war with the U.S. could be deported. And the Sedation Act itself was when foreigners were being punished for saying / publishing anything against the U.S. government. Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. Thomas Jefferson and James Madison thought the Sedation Act was unconstitutional, and because of that, Virginia and Kentucky would not follow it. Election of 1800. John Adams became very unpopular with people from his previous actions, so he lost. And Thomas Jefferson and Aaron Burr ran together. In the end, they tied, and Alexander Hamilton had convinced the House of Representatives to vote for Thomas Jefferson, which had led to Alexander Hamilton versus Burr duel. The first time a new political party came to power was with the Revolution of 1800. They cut back on Federalist actions under Adams, repealed the Sedation Act, cut national taxes, cut tariffs to encourage trade, and reduced size of spending on the military, and changed public view of the president significantly. Louisiana Purchase. Jefferson wanted some more farmland, but he didn't want too much farmland. Something to go over. Before this, the Spanish had sold Louisiana back to France, and Napoleon tried to take the Mississippi River but lost interest eventually. Later, Jefferson offered $15 million to Napoleon for the Louisiana, and it was accepted. Embargo of 1807 banned foreign trade with all countries. War of 1812 was the Second Revolutionary War. People wanted to invade Canada, but there was no increase in the Navy, though. No battles on U.S. soil, and no troops sent to Britain. The U.S. troops were unprepared, there was not a good leader, British captured Detroit soon after, Navy fought with the British, lost. Tecumseh also fought with the British. 16 U.S. ships were part of the U.S. Navy. Only 3 of them were actually meant for battle. British had a blockade, on the East Coast, no foreign trade. In turn, with all that happening, the industrialism increased and agriculture suffered significantly. British had also burned on many towns in 1814, the White House, and the U.S. Capitol of the time. Cotton gin. The cotton gin could quickly separate cotton from seeds, and cotton was very profitable at the time. So with this machine being able to quickly do this instead of having slaves or man labor do it, it helped boom industrialism and had made agriculture suffer. Erie Canal, the longest artificial waterway in North America. Industrialism is when more machines were being used over actual people, and that is when factories and other things of the sort, industrial buildings, had increased, but agriculture, like farms and many other smaller places, were decreasing. Speed round of just some important things a few people did. George Washington was the first president. John Adams was second president. Charles Talleyrand was Napoleon's chief diplomat. Thomas Jefferson was the third president. Aaron Burr shot Hamilton because he didn't get to become president. James Madison was the fourth president. Lewis and Clark had led an expedition of the Louisiana Territory and charted it, helped leading to many things happening. William Henry Harris defeated natives at the Battle of Tippecanoe and made the Trail of Tears happen. Samuel Slater, the father of American Revolutionism, the father of American Industrial Revolution. Francis Lowell, best known for building the American textile industry. Eli Whitney made the cotton gin. Some Hamilton info: he was the Department of Treasury, he was a tiebreaker for Jefferson versus Burr, and died in a duel against Burr in the same place his son was killed. The last thing about Alexander Hamilton, his four-pronged economic plan on how to pay off U.S. national debt. First, by selling U.S. Treasury bonds. Second, excise taxes. Third, tariffs. And finally, to create a national bank.